Good evening, Fort Collins. I'm Jacky Wilson, and you've just tuned in to this week's Valentine's Day edition of CTV Talks. In the spirit of this lovely holiday, we invited a very special guest to tell us about love, and maybe not in the way that you'd expect. Then stay tuned for this week's weather updates with Austin Harley. So you can make weather-appropriate V-Day plans. But first, you might have heard of the MTV show Are You the One? But did you know that one of the guys looking for love on the show is also a CSU Ram? Here joining us tonight is Ethan Diamond of the MTV original series Are You the One? Ethan, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
So first off, you're a student here.
Yes,
so can you tell me a little bit about your major?
I am a natural resource and recreational tourism management major. I am a business minor. Been going to school here for a few years. I'm a senior, have one semester left, and thought I'd try out the show.
See how your acting career goes, right?
Yeah, well, you know, it was more like finding love. I found an opportunity. I hadn't been too successful with relationships to this point. Thought I'm about to graduate, so maybe it's time to get my things together, and I saw an opportunity, so I applied.
Very cool. Well, on your show profile, it featured a story about some big New Year's Eve fall. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Yeah,
well, I had an accident on New Year's Eve of 2012. I was coming home from the bars in Old Town and decided that I really wasn't enjoying walking, so I found myself up on a balcony, 3rd stories high, and was drinking with a few buddies, and one thing led to another, and I ended up falling 3 stories straight to the pavement and broke 10 bones in each leg.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, and I was attempting to borrow a bicycle to take home.
With broken legs?
With broken legs at that point. So I figured that it would not be a good idea to have anybody find me in this state.
Oh, gosh.
But at this point, nobody could come find me because it's really early in the morning on New Year's Day and everybody has been out all night. So finally got a hold of one of my buddies and they pushed me home on a skateboard.
Did you go to the hospital?
I went to the hospital the next day. Yeah, I went to the hospital the next day and they told me immediately that I would never be able to walk again.
Oh my gosh.
And so I was in and out of surgeries for 2 weeks, and I was in a wheelchair for months and months until one day, you know, the doctor was like, well, things are looking all right. You want to try to walk? And as soon as he gave me an opportunity, I haven't been back in a wheelchair since.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Well, congratulations for that.
Thank you.
I'm sure being able to walk helped you get on the show, right?
It was, yeah, because it was a bit of a life-changing experience, you know.
Yeah.
Being told you're never going to be able to walk because of something you did, you know, you take a lot of responsibility all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And so at that point I figured, well, maybe I can try and find another girl to help me share my responsibilities, so.
There you go, very cool. And I know the show kind of features this idea of people who are bad at relationships coming into the show, hopefully, to get a little bit better.
Correct.
So how are you bad at relationships? I want to know the dirty details.
I just never had seen myself being with anyone for a long time. You know,
commitment issues?
Commitment issues, yeah. I have a very loving family, and my family has been very critical of everyone that I bring home for them to meet.
I see.
So I try and be too critical sometimes, and just really didn't have any future plans until I broke both of my legs.
And then that kind of got you thinking.
And then I started thinking about my future.
There you go. That makes sense. It's kind of a cool little segue.
Yeah.
You had a big life-changing event. Understandable. So now that you've been on the show, I mean, do you think you've really learned anything about love?
Definitely. You know, living in a house for this show, Are You the One? 10 guys and 10 girls all living in a house. We got to find our perfect match. So you can imagine living with your ex-girlfriends, your current girlfriends, your future girlfriends, your brothers, you know, maybe an enemy or two.
Ooh.
Your parents are kind of there. So you learn a lot about relationships. And
Right.
if you find someone who you're compatible with, it tends to stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah. And for those of us who haven't maybe seen the show, can you tell us a bit about how it's kind of set up, like what the structure is, how the game's played?
Yeah, so there's 10 guys, 10 girls. Each of us has been picked out of millions and millions of applicants. We went through strenuous psychological and IQ tests. We met with doctors and psychiatrists for 2 days straight, and they matched us up. The girls were picked first, and then they found guys to match up with these girls.
Interesting.
And they put us all in a house together. and we had to figure out which one was for us. If we could figure it out through dates and competitions, then we win $1 million.
Very cool. So what kind of competitions? What do those entail?
You know, the competitions are anything from Fear Factor type of competitions to Amazing Race. So far, there's been 3 episodes. One of the competitions involved kayaking. Another involved what they call sexting, where you take a picture of yourself and
Ooh.
you don't show your face, so you had to guess who it was.
Oh my gosh.
And another competition involved quotes that the girls had said in the house that the guys had to figure out.
Well, it all sounds very interesting, kind of juicy, but we're going to hear some more juicy details when we come.
The great outside.
My new mom and I have a lot in common.
So shiny.
We both love the outdoors.
That's not a flower.
And she knows a lot about wildlife.
A labradoodle.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of kids in foster care will take you just as you are.
Welcome back, Rams. For all of you that have just tuned in, you're watching CTV Talks, and this week we're talking all things love and relationships with Ethan Diamond, a CSU Ram and contestant from MTV's newest series, Are You the One? So Ethan, can you tell us a little bit more about these challenges that you went through? I mean, what was your biggest challenge being on the show?
Well, you know, I broke both my legs falling from a high place, so my biggest fear is falling.
Oh, I'm sure.
So I was terrified the whole time that they were going to put me somewhere where I would be scared of falling.
Yeah.
I can't tell you if that happened or not, but that was my biggest fear on the show.
So we'll have to keep watching.
You're going to have to keep
see
watching.
How that happens.
See what
well,
happens.
Obviously you survived, so that's
did.
good news. That's good news anyway. So what is it like having your every moment filmed?
It's crazy, you know. It's a bit of a mind game going on. You have to realize, you know, would your grandmother enjoy you doing this
Right.
if she saw you doing it?
No
So
kidding.
that kind of runs through your head, and you try and be devil's advocate sometimes and do what you can. But all in all, I'd do it again in a heartbeat.
Very cool. So you mentioned earlier, I mean, it's kind of like having people watching over your shoulder. Was there any time where you were just like, I can't let my parents watch this, like closing their eyes during the whole season?
No, you know, it was like, it got to the point where I knew what I had signed up for, and I knew that I was there to find my perfect match and win $1 million. So I was going to do whatever it takes to make that happen.
Right. And with Valentine's Day coming up, what would you do for your special one?
Well, my special one, I don't know. It would have to be something pretty extraordinary.
Especially being after this show.
After being on the show,
High expectations.
yeah, high expectations. Got a lot of spots in Hawaii now, so maybe I'd take them back to Hawaii.
There you go. Very cool. All right. And what do you think you've learned? What's like the biggest lesson you've learned being on this show?
Biggest lesson learned is patience. You know, you got to be very patient, and everybody's different. You got to understand everybody's thought process, and if you want to make a relationship work, it's not just you got to worry about.
Right, definitely. Now, obviously, still Valentine's Day. What do you think is like a strange thing that like is an expectation maybe for girls and guys on Valentine's Day?
It's going out to dinner. You go out to dinner all the time. You stay home and make some dinner and then go do something crazy.
There you go. Like go to Hawaii, right?
Yeah, go to Hawaii.
Very cool. Well, okay, also I was wondering, from a guy's perspective, obviously Valentine's Day is kind of viewed as a girl's holiday. Now, coming from a guy's perspective, do you think that the girl has any liability here?
You know, it's almost as if you are a single girl, you better find a Valentine. That's the liability for the guy, because
There
there's
you
always
go.
a single guy out there, and we enjoy making girls happy.
See, I like that idea. Very cool. Now, what is the worst gift that you've ever received? Or maybe the best gift?
Oh, you know, I have never received a bad gift, but I will say on the last episode, there was a big extravaganza with one of the guys, and the exes came on the show, and the ex
Oh,
of one of the
God.
guys mentioned that he was a bad gift giver, and he had given her a tie-dye set and a pair of jumper cables one birthday.
Oh.
Yeah, so
I wonder what that could even turn into. Like, can you make something out of those?
I hope
Or-
not. I hope
I
not.
hope not. Maybe a problem. Nothing
Yeah,
you can make
exactly,
out
a
of those. Oh
problem.
my gosh, that's crazy. So what advice would you give to anybody kind of aspired to go onto these shows?
You know, it takes a lot of determination and confidence. You know, never give up. If you set your mind to something, it's going to happen. Never give up on it. You got to be ready to be on camera all the time, And
Right.
if you do find someone that you may or may not fall in love with, you got to be able to display that on TV.
Right, no kidding. I mean, you're surrounded by cameras all the time. I'm
All
sure
the
the
time.
dynamic in the house must have been crazy.
And everybody's trying to get some FaceTime,
Oh,
so it's kind of difficult. I just sat back and enjoyed my vacation in Hawaii.
Yeah, there you go. Were there any fights in between the contestants about like who's getting what girl and?
Of course there's going to be drama. The guys are dating girls that they don't even know if they're their match.
Right.
And then you got another guy in the corner watching it go down, even though he may know that that's his match. So it's just a matter of which people handle it the best.
Gosh, sounds like fun though. Jealousy,
was.
games,
Yes.
love. You can't go wrong, right?
You can't go wrong. Tune in.
So what advice would you give for people who are trying to find love maybe on campus, a little more local?
It's always the people that give smiles. I always want to talk to the people that are smiling or really are outgoing. So, don't walk on campus, look down. It's amazing what a simple smile can do to somebody.
Definitely, that's very cool. Well, thank you so much,
No
Ethan.
problem.
It's
Thank
been
you.
so much fun having you on the show.
Appreciate it.
And remember to look for him on MTV's Are You the One on Thursday nights at 9 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. And stay tuned for this week's lovely weather updates coming up right after the break.
Take my hand and start a brand new day.
Underneath everything we are all people. And when we reach out a hand to one, we can influence the condition of all. That's what it means to live united.
Welcome back from the break. What an interesting interview, and man, I wish I was in Hawaii right now. Sounds like warm temperatures there. However, it's a little warmer here than usual too. Not as warm as Hawaii, but certainly a good change for us from last week. Outside the studio, 34 degrees. That's almost 40 degrees warmer than what we saw for lows and highs last week. 22 is our wind chill right now, out of the southwest at 10 miles per hour. That's keeping us a little cooler, and we'll see that over the next few days. The winds are coming down off the high country and cooling us down just a little bit, but that's certainly not going to make a difference later in the week when we see highs in the 50s and 60s. For now, though, let's take a look at the lows for this evening. 31 here in Fort Collins, 35 in Denver. Very, very warm compared to what we saw recently. 20 in Vail and 15 in Gunnison, 28 on the western slope in Grand Junction. Out on the plains, 27 and low 20s. Those will definitely feel a little cooler too with that wind. Overnight, though, these temperatures will drop around this level before we warm up tomorrow to some amazing temperatures. Let's take a look across the nation first, however. You can see the big story of today is the ice storm in Georgia and South Carolina and North Carolina as well, where up to an inch of ice accumulation has begun to fall, and the entire cities of Atlanta, Charleston are a mess. And this system will only push north over the next few days. You can see this white for snow, where we'll see 6 to 8 inches of snow. Not so much ice for New England, but they have just gotten massive, massive snowfalls this winter. It's fairly out of the normal. For us, however, it is a different story. You can see we have a low pressure system sitting over us right now, and that's bringing some snow to the high country, but not down here. And tomorrow, it's going to be a different story. Let's go ahead and take a look at the temperatures for tomorrow. 56 in Fort Collins. Very, very warm, unseasonably warm for this time of year, and 62 in Denver. It's going to be a great day tomorrow. Even in the high country, skiing would be a perfect day to go out. However, stay out of the back country because of some avalanche warnings. We have 35 in Vail and 50s on the western slope in Grand Junction. It's going to be very warm tomorrow. However, remember those wind chills I talked about. They'll drop these temperatures a little bit, but nothing too significant. It's still going to be a very, very nice day tomorrow. Let's take a look at the 5-day forecast. Even better, Thursday, 56, and Friday, Valentine's Day. It is going to be so nice. 52, and then over the weekend, we're going to warm into the 60s. That's the first time we've seen 60s since last year. Sunny and a beautiful, beautiful Valentine's and beautiful weekend. However, we'll be looking at a little bit of rain-snow mix over Monday night. It's a little too far out to tell how much, but that's quite a ways out for now, and we'll go ahead and see what that looks like later in the week.
Well, whatever you decide to do with this wonderful warm weather, have a happy and safe Valentine's Day, Rams.
Have a good night, and we'll see you next week.